Hey, Josh Teague, Running T Farms. First cattle move of the day. Thought I would do a little follow up on our video from a couple days ago. We were talking about harvest efficiency. I wasn't real happy with the harvest efficiency we were getting, so we have since upped the stock density. Grazing right now at about 1,100,000 pounds of stock density to the acre, so 1.1 million pounds of livestock to the acre, and we have gotten our harvest efficiency up where I would like it. Now I will say that you see some areas like this, and I would say that that's due to the calves. We always have calves. If you'll see, they kind of get out and creep graze around. They walk through some of the forage ahead of before the cows get there, and of course they poop and pee and so forth. So we have a little bit of fouling out ahead of the cows. But I want to point out a couple things here if anybody's trying to get their harvest efficiency up. So we're at 1,100,000 pounds stock density there, and if you'll notice what the cows are not doing, they're not walking around to any degree. So when we move them in there, they move straight in there. Because they're standing nearly shoulder to shoulder, they just start eating. They don't have the luxury of walking around, grazing selectively. So that is how you reduce fouling. As Johann Zeitsman says, sometimes your stock density can be high, but not, it can be too high, but yet it's not high enough. And what he means is that there's a threshold that you have to cross in regards to fouling. When you're grazing at 200,000 or 300,000 pounds of stock density to the acre, that sounds like a pretty high stock density to most people. But what happens then is there's still enough room in there for those cows to still walk around, and they'll try to selectively graze what's in that break. And as they're doing that, they're constantly fouling the forage. It's especially bad if it's very wet or anything like that. So most people would think, oh my goodness, I've got my stock density so high they're fouling my forage, I better back off on the stock density to reduce fouling. But in real life, you need to do just the opposite. You need to push that stock density on up so that they don't have the luxury of walking around and grazing selectively. Now, I gave these cattle, when I came up here to move them, the last move last night, I was very pleased with the graze. I'm standing in the last paddock that I moved them out of. I actually gave them one extra break last night because we were supposed to be some of the first really windy, cold weather that we've had, and cattle's nutritional requirements go up when it gets cold. The wind was supposed to blow. Not that we won't get a lot colder than what we've got. This was just kind of the first little cold, windy night, so I gave them an extra break just to ensure that they had plenty if they needed that extra to help them stay warm through those windy conditions. So when I got here this morning, this is the break that I had given them. As you can see, I probably didn't need to do that because they've grazed not a whole lot between the paddock that I moved them out of, which I moved them out of it about an hour early out of convenience just because I was here, and then the one that I moved them into, they primarily just used it for bedding. But if you'll see, I get right back here was during the normal grazing day. Harvest efficiency was very good, so I kind of mucked up the harvest efficiency on those last two breaks there just by my choice to move them before they had fully finished grazing what should have been the last paddock of the day. And I gave them an additional break just because if I want to err, I always want to err on the side of the animal as far as their nutritional concerns. We can address the grazing deficiencies as far as harvest efficiency or the selectivity of the grazing through the next pass through. So always want to err on the side of the animals. Now I can tell you that we're seeing some of the manure, since we have asked them to start grazing, making better use of what's here. Some of the manure is starting to stack up just a bit, but we've got some that still looks very good. So I'm going to just keep at what I'm doing here for about another 3 days or so. That one looks very good, and I'm going to give these cows room and time to fully get sort of adjusted over here to using a little bit less quality forage when we were allowing them to graze more selectively. Not necessarily by my choice, we were just getting started on this forage, and I like to usually start at just a little less stock density and work my way up so that I make sure I keep the animals fed. So we did a 3-day grazing sale there from my gator all the way down to here. And I saw that we probably weren't harvesting 50% of the forage. So I actually just cut the grazing sale area right in half, and we've still got a 3-day grazing sale, only we're only grazing half as much area. So we've essentially doubled our carrying capacity, so to speak, by harvesting close to that other 50% of forage. So I will monitor this manure. A lot of these manure pats here are some of the first of the day, but there's a big variation in them. We have some that almost look a little bit too loose, some that are just perfect, like that one there is just about perfect, and then we've got some that are starting to stack just a bit. So I will monitor. Since we have a whole lot of grass ahead of us, if necessary, I will back off on how much forage I'm asking them to take to keep their manure looking good, simply because I have so much grass that I can do that and graze all winter without any chance of running out. So obviously, if that was not the case, if I was fully stocked, we are understocked. If I was fully stocked, we would need to probably supplement just a bit of protein. And we would do that with organic, very high quality alfalfa hay, because we don't feed any grains or anything like that. So that's just a couple of tips there that you can use. One more that I forgot to mention, we have started waiting until 9 o'clock in the morning so that we give the grass time for the frost to get off of it. 10 would be better, but the days are short. So we're moving these cattle every 2 hours, starting at 9 o'clock, 9, 11, 1, and 3. I'll come up here at 3 o'clock, set up the next day's breaks, take my Penn's Agro polywire lifters into the house if it's supposed to get below freezing that night, because they're not supposed to be out in weather below freezing, just like I did last night. Our water's still out there. We haven't moved it because it's only a 3-day grazing sale. The cattle haven't made any kind of mess around the trough. Freeze miser is working great. We've been down below freezing every night for the last several, down to 26 or 28, I don't remember, the night before, and no water issues. So we've successfully used those freeze misers with over the ground pipe down into the teens routinely without any issues. So they do work well if you're out on pasture with portable water pipe on the ground. Those are a great tool. So I just wanted to get a little update. We will continue to monitor the gut feel and the manure. See, there's some manure that's just a bit on the loose side almost. So we've got a full spectrum here of some that's a little tight and some that's almost on the verge of being a little bit loose. So I think what that is we've asked the cattle over the last 2 days to fully utilize this forage, or as much of it as we can get them to use. So the microbes in their rumen are adjusting to that. We will, 3 or 4 days time will tell us kind of where they've settled in at, if we're able to keep consistently grazing here. That's another great benefit of non-selective grazing, is you keep the plane of nutrition very consistent, because we're going to consistently ask them to use everything that's in that sward. We'll give it a however long a recovery period it takes, and we'll be back. So we should have this in the grazing rotation next year. We will likely graze this 3 to 5 times during the growing season next year. On up that way, we're going to be working into our active growing season. That this, when we get there, we'll make our 4th pass across it. There's a pretty good bit of grass there. I'll make sure to do a video when we get up there to where our active grazing season starts. We just kind of started here for 2 reasons. Once, it's on the downhill side of this pasture, and we knew we were going to be using portable water in our freeze miser, so we wanted to start on the downhill side where we can let that bleed off water just run into the paddock we've already grazed, so that we don't create a muddy mess. And 2, we're still growing grass very slowly. That grass up there is fully recovered, but it's still actively growing just a bit, so we'll just give it, if it can grow any more grass before we get up there, we'll let it do that. So I think we've grazed that 3 times with an average of about 150 to 160 cow days harvested to the acre. We'll easily get another probably 150 cow days off of it on the last pass of this year. So you can do the math. That's about 600 cow days to the acre we've harvested when we get up there, if we're able to harvest 150 cow days on this last pass, which we should be able to. That's about 600 cow days to the acre out of that during the growing season. So we can harvest more cow days during the growing season than we can off of our season-long stockpile. But the season-long stockpile areas are just so necessary for the great soil improvement. So we know we have to do that. It gives us a great buffer for drought and all of that. And you know, we've got a goal of getting to 1 animal unit per acre here, and we're getting very close to that. Now, that's some of our better ground up there. We would not have been able to do that all across our whole farm, harvest 600 cow days to the acre, that is. Got some Canadian geese coming across here this morning. But as we continue to improve our soil, we want to get to 1 animal unit per acre with 365-day grazing, and we're getting very close to that. I would say over the next 3 to 4 years, as we continue to refine our genetics and continue to improve our land, we will get there. And who knows, we may set a goal better than that when we get there. We'll see. The improvement in the land is dramatic. Our genetics are lagging. We can improve the land faster than we can improve our genetics. So we're playing catch up on the genetic side. But just wanted to talk a little bit about a few ways that we have increased our harvest efficiency here. The main one being increased stock density. We're up to 1,100,000 pounds. We have waited a little bit longer in the morning to give them that first move to help the dew get off the grass, helps reduce fouling. And we can get it done, I believe, in 4 moves per day, it looks like. If we would notice that not to be the case, you know, there's enough forage here, even at 1,000,000 pounds of 1,000,000 pounds stock density, that we can still get it done in a 4 moves. So we're grazing 0.11, so just slightly over 1/10 of an acre at each break. So the total area for the whole day right now is 0.44 of an acre. So we're grazing less than half an acre with about 125 animal units roughly here. I've got such a varied, we've got, you know, calves, yearlings, replacement heifers, 2-year-olds, but just doing some quick math, we're somewhere right around 125 animal units here, maybe a little bit more than that. I'm probably being a little bit conservative on that weight. And we're able to fully feed these animals on 4/10 of an acre a day, slightly over 0.44 of an acre. So everybody have a great weekend. As always, you can check us out online at runningtbeef.com. You can like us on Facebook at Running T Beef. If you're watching on YouTube, click that like and subscribe button on the way out, and everybody have a fantastic weekend.